Most people spend their entire lives chasing one number, $1 million. They put it on vision boards. They whisper it before they sleep. They imagine the exact moment the account balance changes. And for most of human history, reaching that number meant you had made it. So here's what nobody tells you. A surprising number of people who actually reach it end up more anxious, more isolated, and more confused than they were before. And most of them can't explain why. Today, we're going to follow someone who hits $1 million and watch very carefully what happens next. Let's start with the fantasy, because you need to feel it first. You've been working for years. It doesn't matter how. What matters is the morning you check your account and the number starts with a 1, followed by 6 more digits. $1 million. You read it twice, and something moves through your chest that might be the purest relief you've ever felt. Because here's what that number means. Be honest, this is what most people feel. Nobody can touch you. If something goes wrong, a job loss, a health crisis, a bad year, you won't fall all the way. The low-grade financial dread most people carry every single day, that quiet background noise of what if, gone. You can travel. You can say no. You can breathe. The dream is real. And for about 2 weeks, maybe 3, it feels exactly the way you imagined. But then something small happens. So small you almost don't notice it. And that small thing is the beginning of everything that you're at dinner with your closest friends. The bill comes, and you feel it. This strange, uncomfortable awareness that wasn't there before. Not guilt, something subtler. The sudden knowledge that the number on that bill means something different to you now than it does to everyone else at the table. Before, you'd have just split it. Now you're running a calculation you didn't ask for. Should you offer to pay? Will that feel like a statement? Will they feel like they owe you? You stay quiet. You split it. But the feeling doesn't go away. Over the following weeks, it keeps appearing. A friend can't afford the trip. Your sibling complains about rent. A colleague is stressed about credit card debt. And every time, there's that same strange distance. You haven't said a word to anyone about your money, but the distance is there anyway. Because you know, and knowing privately, silently, starts to separate you from the world you lived in. You're standing in 2 worlds at once, and you belong fully to neither. But here's the thing, that wasn't even the real problem. What happens when you tell people? That's where things get strange. Almost everyone who crosses this threshold makes the same mistake. They tell someone. Maybe it slips out. Maybe they're proud. They share it with someone close, expecting that person to share in the joy. What they get instead is complicated. Some people are genuinely happy for you. Real friends exist. Not everyone changes. But some people you've known for years, subtly, almost imperceptibly shift. The questions start. Oh, so you're good then, said in a tone that isn't quite a compliment. Must be nice, said every time you mention anything, even something unrelated to money. I guess you don't have to worry about that anymore, said when you mention any problem at all, as if a financial threshold cancels out the rest of human experience. Psychologists have studied this. When a financial gap becomes visible, it triggers social comparison. And the person on the lower end doesn't always direct their discomfort at the situation. They direct it at the person they can see. You become a symbol. And symbols are hard to be friends with. But friendships getting awkward? That's manageable. What about your family? Most people who build wealth come from regular families. places where money was always a source of stress. When you cross a threshold they haven't crossed, the dynamic changes. Someone assumes you will always pick up the check. Someone asks to borrow money. Someone doesn't ask, but acts resentful that you haven't offered. Or there's no specific event, just a tone that appears in certain conversations. A slight edge, an assumption that you've become someone different, someone who doesn't understand anymore, someone who left. You haven't moved. You haven't changed your values. You still call on Sundays. But in the eyes of the people who love you most, something is different, and you can't buy your way out of it. In fact, and this is the cruelest part, the more you try to use money to close that distance, the wider it gets. But we're not at the deepest level yet. Here's something almost nobody prepares you for. You thought $1 million would make you feel safe. It does. For a while. Then the math starts. $1 million invested conservatively generates around $30,000 to $40,000 a year. That's the standard withdrawal rate most financial planners recommend. $30,000 to $40,000 a year, which is fine until you price it against real life. In any major city, that barely covers rent. It doesn't cover a family, healthcare surprises, or an early retirement. Financial planners have a name for this, the threshold illusion. You've hit a number that feels like a finish line, but examined clearly, it's a milestone, not a destination. So you run the numbers again, and again, and something strange happens. You start worrying about money more than you did before you had it. Psychologists call it loss aversion. The pain of losing something is roughly twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining it. Before, you had little to lose. Now you have something real. And every market drop isn't a percentage anymore. It's $100,000 gone in a month. The safety you bought came with new fear built in. But that's still not the deepest level. Because now we need to talk about something the finance world almost never addresses. Who were you before the money? Most people who chase a financial goal build their identity around the pursuit. The hustle, the sacrifice, the struggle towards something. Every difficult day had a narrative. Every sacrifice had a destination. And then you arrive. And the working towards something identity has nowhere to go. Researchers call this the arrival fallacy. The false belief that reaching a goal produces lasting fulfillment. It almost never does. The feeling of achievement is real. And it fades, usually within weeks. What's left is a version of you standing in a room you spent your whole life trying to enter, not knowing what to do once you're inside. The goal is gone. The urgency is gone. The daily sense of mission has lost its object. The finance world doesn't talk about this. It treats the number as the answer. But the number was only ever the answer to a financial question. The deeper questions were never on the spreadsheet. Who am I when I'm not striving? What do I actually want my life to look like? What is this all for? Most people run toward the number so hard they never ask those questions. When the running stops, they're still there, waiting. There's a cost to having money that nobody puts in the brochure. It's not financial. It's human. It shows up as a question that starts following you everywhere. Why do they like me? Before the money, the answer was obvious. People were in your life for clear reasons. History, connection, shared experience. Simple. After the money, the math gets complicated. New people enter your life. Some are extraordinary, genuine, sharp, real. But some are very interested in being around you. interested in a way that's slightly too warm, slightly too fast. And your brain starts filing data, points it never used to collect. You start listening underneath what people say. You notice who calls before they need something and who only calls after. Psychologists call this epistemic isolation, when you can no longer trust the signals you receive for people around you, because there's now a confounding variable in every relationship. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. A compliment lands differently. Even love gets examined. Did they love me, or who they thought I'd become? This is the trust tax. You can't hire someone to reduce it. You can't optimize around it. It lives inside the most fundamental human need there is, the need to be seen and loved for who you are. And money, very quietly, makes that harder. Here's where we stop, because it would be easy to walk away from this video thinking, wealth is bad. Don't pursue it. That's not what this is. The truth is stranger and more important. The problem was never the $1 million. The problem was the story people tell themselves about what the $1 million will do. The story goes, once I have financial security, everything else will follow. I'll be happy. I'll be free. I'll be enough. That story is a lie. Not a stupid one. Not a malicious one. But a lie. Because it takes every unresolved thing in your psychology, every unfixed relationship, every unanswered question about who you are, and promises the number will resolve them. It won't. The anxiety you had at $50,000 doesn't disappear at $1 million. It changes shape. It finds new objects. Anxiety is resourceful. The relationships with cracks in them before the money, they don't heal. They reveal. Money is a magnifier. It makes what's already there larger. The identity questions you buried by staying busy, they're still there. They were never going to be answered by a bank balance. Here's the real thing underneath all of it. Most people don't actually want $1 million. They want what they imagine $1 million will feel like. Safe, seen, free, enough. Those are real, legitimate, deeply human wants. Money is just a partial, imperfect, and sometimes counterproductive answer to most of them. The people who navigate wealth well, who build it and stay sane, stay connected, stay grounded, almost universally understood one thing before they got rich. The work they were doing on themselves was the actual work. The money was just a side effect. So, you hit $1 million. Some things got easier. Real things. The financial dread, genuinely lighter. The ability to say no, real. The capacity to give and provide, meaningful. But some things got harder. Things for which there is no financial solution. The loneliness of distance. The anxiety of having something to lose. The exhaustion of being perceived. The silence where purpose used to be. The question of who loves you and why. These are not small things. These are the things that make a life. If you're sitting here, not yet at $1 million, working towards something, here's the most valuable thing this script can give you. Don't outsource your psychological work to your financial goals. The money is worth pursuing. Security is real. Options are real. But the version of you who arrives at that number is still you, with all your unsolved things intact. The most important investment you can make is the work you do on yourself right now, before you get there. Because when you arrive, you need to be someone who can actually live in that room. The number was never the point. It was always just the entrance exam.